Prime Minister announced a major deal for uranium ore. Sierra D'Souza Butts has more on what the agreement means for the province and why the Sask NDP feel not enough was done on this trip to stop tariffs from India on pulses.
Government of India and Cameco have signed a major $2.6 billion uranium supply agreement supporting India's nuclear ambitions and our shared commitment to clean, reliable baseload power.
What if I told you Donald Trump's own policies just destroyed America's biggest energy opportunity and handed it directly to Canada on a silver platter? That's not a theory. That's exactly what just happened. Trump's brutal tariffs pushed Canada away, and within weeks, Canada signed a $1.9 billion nuclear uranium deal with India. America lost. Canada won. The world is watching. Here's the full story. To understand why this deal is so jaw-dropping, you need to go back just 2 years. In 2023, Canadian PM Justin Trudeau publicly accused India of being linked to the assassination of Sikh separatist Hardeep Singh Nijjar on Canadian soil. India furiously rejected the accusation. Both countries expelled each other's diplomats. Visa services were cancelled overnight. Bilateral trade nearly collapsed. India and Canada weren't just cold, they were enemies. Students couldn't get visas, businesses were frozen, diplomats were sent home in disgrace. And while all of this was happening, Washington was watching quietly and smiling, because a weak Canada and an isolated India meant both countries would stay dependent on America for trade, energy, and security. Trump's America needed both of them divided, distracted, and desperate. A strong India-Canada alliance was Washington's worst nightmare. What nobody predicted was that Trump himself would make that nightmare come true. Then, everything changed. Canada got a brand new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and his very first major foreign trip was not to Washington, not to London, not to Brussels. He flew straight to India. That single decision sent a loud, clear message to the entire world. On March 2, 2026, Carney sat down with PM Narendra Modi at Hyderabad House in New Delhi, and they made history. They signed a landmark 10-year nuclear energy deal, officially transforming two former diplomatic rivals into long-term strategic partners overnight. Canada's uranium giant Cameco signed a direct supply contract with India to fuel its nuclear reactors for the next decade. They also launched a strategic energy partnership covering clean energy, advanced reactors, and small modular reactor technology. Former enemies, now energy partners. Former rivals, now strategic allies. And America? America wasn't even in the room. Now let's talk numbers, because this deal is absolutely enormous. Canada's Cameco signed a $1.9 billion US dollar uranium supply contract. That's $2.6 billion Canadian dollars, delivering uranium to India continuously from 2027 all the way through 2035. 8 straight years of guaranteed supply. But it doesn't stop there. Both countries are also fast-tracking a full free trade agreement by the end of 2026, targeting $50 billion in bilateral trade, nearly double what they do today. India's PM Modi himself said the long-term target is $70 billion. And zooming out even further, India's nuclear ambitions require reaching 100 gigawatts of nuclear energy capacity by 2047. To put that in perspective, that's enough electricity to power hundreds of millions of homes. That is a generational, multi-hundred billion-dollar market, and Canada just locked it in, while America was busy imposing tariffs on its own allies. This deal matters for 3 massive reasons that go beyond just uranium. First, India is an energy-hungry superpower in the making. With the world's fastest-growing major economy and a population of 1.4 billion people, India needs enormous amounts of clean, reliable, long-term energy. Nuclear is its biggest bet. Second, with rising tensions in the Middle East threatening oil supply routes through the critical Strait of Hormuz, India simply cannot afford to depend on unstable fossil fuel pipelines anymore. One conflict, one blockade, and India's entire economy slows down. Third, India has been dangerously reliant on Russia for its energy needs since the Ukraine war. It urgently wants to reduce that vulnerability. Canada, sitting on the world's second-largest uranium reserves, just became India's most critical long-term energy lifeline. The kind of trusted, stable partner America always wanted to be, but carelessly threw away. But here is the twist that nobody in Washington wants to talk about. The single person most responsible for making this deal happen is Donald Trump himself. Let that sink in for a moment. Trump's so-called America First trade policy imposed a punishing 15% global tariff on imports, hitting Canada harder than almost any other nation. Canada used to send 75% of its total exports to the United States. That entire market is now being taxed, squeezed, and strangled to death by Washington. Canadian businesses are bleeding. Canadian farmers are panicking. The Canadian economy is being pushed toward a cliff. So Canada's new government made a cold, calculated, and ruthless decision. If America won't be a reliable partner, we will find better ones. India, with 1.4 billion consumers, a booming economy, and nuclear ambitions worth hundreds of billions of dollars, was the perfect answer. Trump pushed Canada away, and India caught it with both hands. The greatest irony in modern geopolitical history. The consequences of this deal go far beyond uranium, and they will be felt for decades. Washington had been aggressively lobbying India to buy American energy and completely cut ties with Russia. Trump personally pressured Modi to purchase U.S. liquefied natural gas and energy exports. But India outmaneuvered Washington completely, securing a long-term Canadian deal on its own terms, at its own price, without a single American condition attached. And Carney is not stopping at India. After Delhi, he is flying directly to Australia and then Japan, quietly assembling a brand new global trade alliance, deliberately architected to function without the United States at its center. America is not just losing a uranium contract, it is losing Canada. It is losing India. It is losing Japan and Australia. It is losing its grip on global energy alliances, one self-inflicted tariff at a time. Here is the brutal, uncomfortable truth about geopolitics. There are no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. Only permanent interests. Canada and India were practically at war just 2 years ago. Their ambassadors were expelled. Their embassies were empty. Their trade was dead. Today, they are billion-dollar energy partners signing historic nuclear deals because Donald Trump's own reckless trade policy forced them into each other's arms. History will record that America's biggest rival in the global energy game was not China. It was not Russia. It was not Iran. It was America's own arrogant, short-sighted trade policy. Every tariff Trump signs is writing a new chapter, a chapter where the world quietly, deliberately reorganizes itself without America's permission. The question is no longer whether America is losing global influence. The question is, how many more billion-dollar deals like this can America afford to lose before the damage becomes permanent and irreversible? Think about that. If you want sharp, unfiltered geopolitical analysis like this, subscribe right now and hit the bell, because this is only the beginning.